Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, what I think the worst astrological degree is, and I'm going to come out and talk about it right now. The one I think is as far as the worst astrological degree is the fixed star Algol. Algol currently is positioned at 26 degrees Taurus. I see this is a very has potential to be very bellicose and volatile degree and placement. It is also associated with beheadings, literal beheadings. Now, this could also be a position of a recalcitrant alcoholic. It's interesting because Taurus is a sign that is really generally very docile and passive, but this is one exception right here. Perhaps to that as far as degrees go, at least potentially anyway. Now, this is a position degree that really is not really very auspicious and not fortuitous. This is really could also be a degree in as far as this fixed star Algol. This could be very fixated and obsessive, and it often is connected with losing one's head from a figurative standpoint. Now, this could also be, this is just really could be a very nefarious degree as well. Sometimes the person that has this, especially I would think if it's at the Ascendant, could have very distinctive and unique features that stand out. Also, another thing is this is really about what I'm talking about as far as this degree is applying to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Now, another thing about this could also be this fixed star Algol degree could also be connected with one that could be a compulsive and habitual liar, unfortunately, and also could be connected with poison. I think this may have something to do with the fact, at least at its current degree, it is at the Pisces Dwad of Taurus. So I think that might be connected with it to some degree, but that is just my own belief on it. Now, this could also be a really position that could be very malefic and malevolent, to say the least. One thing I thought was interesting, sadly, and it did look real to me. I didn't ever confirm whether, or I couldn't confirm whether this was actually veracious or whether it was true or not. But there was a video, sadly, that was released on, I believe it was May 15, 2015. At the time, the sun was either at or close to 24 degrees Taurus, which of course is like 2 degrees from the Algol degree. And in the video, get into the video, it showed what appeared to be anyway an actual literal beheading, sadly, of a woman. It was released on May 15, 2015, if I'm not mistaken. It was very, very sad. But this degree is unfortunately connected with literal beheadings, though in most cases it's really more about, as I stated before, losing one's head and being overly fixated and obsessed with something. Now, this could be also one person I want to talk about as a good example of this is, it may have like a B rating though on Astro.com, so it's one of those proceed with cautions, but NBA legend Wilt Chamberlain, according to that chart, has his ascendant very close to the Algol fixed star degree, and he, this could be a little bit of a distortion, of course, but he had claimed to have slept with 20,000 women. This degree could also apparently could be one of a philanderer as well. There's a guy, my feeling is he may have slept with a lot of them. 20,000 might be a little exaggeration, with something we'll never know, though, of course, never be able to prove one way or the other. But anyway, he also had, certain other points in his chart that maybe reaffirmed this, including he had Venus square Jupiter, and according to that chart on Astro.com, Jupiter was in the 7th house. And I think this could sometimes indicate this aspect, along with Jupiter being in the 7th, could have it does somewhat distorted and enlarged relationships, which of course doesn't exclude sexual ones. So anyway, the next thing up is, well, the person I want to talk about that really I think is a good example of this algal degree is the late great Billy Martin, who is a former MLB player and manager. And he had his Sun conjunct algal in his natal chart. Now, he was notorious for getting into verbal and physical confrontations with players on opposing teams and perhaps even ones on his own team as well. I know he had an argument one time with MLB legend Reggie Jackson, ironically enough, another Taurus. Imagine that, right? And also, he was also known for drinking as well. I don't know if he was actual alcoholic, but I think he at least drank on a moderate level. And Billy Martin was known for volatile and acerbic nature. He was nicknamed Battling Billy Martin for obvious reasons. And he also had other indicators in his natal chart that perhaps reinforced and reaffirmed this. For one, his moon was in Aries, and it made a conjunction to Jupiter, and that likely expanded the acerbic Aries-like tendencies. And also, it was in his 7th house of relationships and open adversaries. He also had Mars in Aries, and it's at its dignity at a critical degree at 0. Now, and it was in the 6th house of daily routine. So, also, Neptune also was afflicted, making a square to his Sun, and he was certainly more truculent than the typical Sun and Taurus Libra ascendant person. So I think a lot of this has to, like when somebody has this position, whether it's a Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, it's not like, oh no, I have the algal degree. This is doomsday. This is not fortuitous. It's inauspicious and this and that. It's just not. The thing about it is, I think a lot of it has to do with other aspects and elements, positions in your chart, especially if algal is very strongly afflicted in the chart, and I think that could really bring out the really strong negative manifestation of that degree and position for algals. So anyway, another example, sadly, and a good example, I think, as far as this goes, this algal degree, is Melissa Ann Shepard, who, aka the Internet Black Widow, has her Sun close to the algal degree, either 24 or 25 degrees Taurus, depending on time of birth. Now, if anyone was nefarious and even murderous, certainly it would be her. She was notorious, as many of you may know, for really connecting with desperate and gullible men on the internet, and she would give them the impression that she wanted a relationship with them, but that was really just a ruse to get money from them and use them. And anyway, I think the avaricious and greedy side of Taurus strongly came out in her, of course. She was convicted of poisoning one of these people, and also in the death of another, one that she ran over 2 times. And I think this degree can also be very ruthless and malicious in its very negative manifestation. Now, Melissa Ann Shepard likely had her moon in Scorpio, depending on the birth time, and in her solar chart, I couldn't find her time of birth online. Now, Neptune in her solar chart also was in the 5th house and intercepted in that 5th house, of course, of love and romance. And I mean, maybe that's, I think that may have played a role, astrologically speaking, as far as, poisoning someone, and at least one person. She was only convicted of one, but I think she was under suspicion for drugging other people as well, but it just wasn't proven. Now, also, she also had Mars retrograde, and it was in the sign of detriment in Libra. And Mercury it has in Gemini, was it was in the focal point of a mutable T-square configuration. And Mercury also was very close to Chiron. So anyway, again, there were other things, I think, in the chart that helped sadly reinforce this negative side of her algal, close to algal sun degree. So anyway, well, another example about this is when you look at this, one person I think of is former NBA player Bill Laimbeer. I think he's really a good example of the fixed star algal in a very negative manifestation. Bill Laimbeer has his ascendant in Taurus very close to this position. Now, Bill Laimbeer, those of you NBA fans may remember he was notorious for bullying other NBA players and instigating fights and being the provocateur, so to speak, the one that would be provoking a lot of them. Now, he got into a number of physical and verbal altercations with NBA players, including the renowned Michael Jordan and even Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley. Now, his nature certainly was more volatile and bellicose and pugnacious compared to the average Taurus personality. And he also has his sun in Taurus making a conjunction to that ascendant position, which is close to the algal degree in position. And I think it made these characteristics unfortunately shine very strongly with him. So anyway, and also as another person that comes to mind as far as this goes is that many of you may have read about serial killer H.H. Holmes, who had his sun in Taurus very close to the algal degree in position. And the thing about it is as far as what was confirmed, he killed 9 people as far as that being confirmed. I think he confessed to like 27 murders, and there's speculation that he may have killed as many as like 200. Now, they didn't have his time of birth online, but somebody connected, I believe, with Astro.com had rectified his ascendant to Scorpio. And it would not shock me really in the least if he had a Scorpio ascendant, because this could explain maybe about luring many of these victims and manipulating them and getting them to a point where he would be able to murder them. And also the fact that this could have been done in a very surreptitious and sneaky manner, and which could explain like maybe he may have actually killed a lot more people than was actually proven. So, and another thing too is that there was something that, and as far as World War II goes, it's interesting because there was a point in 1941 where World War II may very well have been at or near its pinnacle, is when Uranus made a conjunction to the fixed star algal. So, I mean, I think that might have been something that might have been associated as far as the algal's doing, so to speak, as far as the war being at its pinnacle. So perhaps at that time. So that's not really that shocking or surprising. Now, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for what I believe is the worst astrological degree. And stay tuned next time. I'm going to be starting a new series, and it's going to be about what annoys the zodiac signs. And I'm going to start with what annoys Aries, and then what annoys Taurus, and go through all 12 zodiac signs. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Stay tuned next time, where, as I stated before, I'm going to start my What Annoys the Zodiac Sign series. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.